made her choose between her children and her own freedom. Michael Wiles is an immigration attorney who has advised Sarah, and Congressman Dan Burton is a Republican from Indiana. First of all, Michael Wiles, isn't this basically a custody case that she seems unable to win?
This is one of those extraordinary circumstances where there is a confluence of law and a lot of ill will. Unfortunately, the United States has to, in my opinion, as I've been involved in a lot of these cases and have gotten kids back to our shores that have been kidnapped, has to reassess its relationship with Saudi Arabia. This is a society that has not been tested for its remorse in the post 9/11 mode, and in this circumstance would separate children from a mother. This is not just Saudi custody law. These are double-talking diplomats that are hiding behind all sorts of nuances. These good folks have custody laws and protection in the United States. These citizens are just as much a citizen, Michael, as you and I are, and ought to have the protection. The congressman that you have on is noted for his philanthropic efforts in trying to get these children and others back. But the fact is, the law has right now a vacuum, and it needs to be plugged. And again, we are the moral compass of the world. And for us to barter for oil and military installations, but to leave little children behind is unforgivable. And anything short of actually getting on a plane and taking those children, presumably the children are right now are on sovereign U.S. soil. But the United States Embassy in Saudi Arabia is the only authority in the entire world that does not have that enjoyment. In fact, you can't have Christian or Jewish weddings or facilitations of that sort on their soil where other countries could.
Let's go to Congressman Burton on that. Congressman, despite your efforts on the behalf of this family and others, it appears, or at least the allegation has been made, that the American consulate in Saudi Arabia sat by and allowed this woman in their presence to sign a document that basically called for her to leave her 2 children in Saudi Arabia for her to return to the United States. What do you know about this?
Well, they are now giving sanctuary to American citizens who come to the consulate and the embassy in Riyadh. The problem is, up until just the last couple of years, they weren't allowing American citizens to stay there. We had a case a few years ago where a woman came with her 3 children, and they turned her out on the street, had 2 Marines carry the kids and escorted her to the street, where she was arrested.
American?
Her 12-year, yeah, it was an American, and her 12-year-old daughter was married off to a fellow she didn't even know. So, yeah, the Saudi law is very repressive. Women are owned by their husbands. American women who marry a Saudi and go over there, they cannot leave the country, they can't go to the store, they can't do anything without their husband's approval. And the children are also owned by their husbands. And so this, and what bothers me is Al Jaber, who's the mouthpiece for the Saudis here in the United States, and Prince Bandar has said that no American woman is being held against her will. And that is an out-and-out lie. Women by the hundreds are being held against their will and would like to come back with their kids.
I agree with the congressman. It is just an unconscionable position. And right now, anything short of somebody physically going in there, there is no difference between the passports that they carry, the good congressman and I carry as well. And the fact that people hide behind all sorts of family protections, again, what guides us should be the same thing that guides them in this day and age. And that's what's in the best interest of a child. And certainly forcing them to choose between their mother and their father is not. And if we have to barter oil and military deals and we forget our sons and daughters, we have no business in that region.
Well, you know, Saudi... Go ahead, Congressman.
I was going to say that there are a number of things that we could do. We could not give visas to the extended families of these people who are involved in the kidnappings or keeping kids away from their mother. We could put an embargo, so to speak, on some of the Saudi oil and buy more from Venezuela and Mexico and other parts of the world, because they rely so much on the sale of their oil to us in order to keep their economy floating. There's a whole host of things we could do. The State Department could come down very hard on them and tell them that if they want security measures taken to help protect them from people like Saddam Hussein or Iran, that they're going to have to start doing something that will facilitate these women coming back.
What can the State Department do right now for this specific woman and her children?
I have an answer for that, Michael. I have an answer. I mean, clearly the State Department has in its hands the final disposition and the responsibility for this. You know, I've been successful in getting children back from Lebanon, from Syria, in these kind of sting operations with U.S. Attorney's Office. I served as a federal prosecutor years ago, and there are little nuances that have been able to bring these children to our shores. But clearly, our government is not doing anything to help families, particularly parents, in assessing their vulnerabilities in cross-cultural relationships.
Okay, Congressman Burton, quickly, what happens when you rattle the State Department's cage on an issue like this? What happens?
Well, I've met with Secretary Powell, and he's amenable to making some changes. He has taken some steps to make things better. They are now giving sanctuary to American women and kids in the embassy. Now what we have to do is find a way to get them out. We can get the women out if we make a big enough stink about it, but we've got to get the kids out as well. And it may require getting a third entity to intercede.
Okay, I think we have to get a plane and just put them in it. That's all.
Congressman Dan Burton, Michael Wiles, thanks very much. We did contact the Saudi Arabian government, but they couldn't provide us with a person to join us tonight, nor would they give us a statement. Coming up, CNBC's Jim Cramer.